Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1 Million Cups, Fayetteville. Glad everybody could join us this morning. We've got a great presentation today. Um, we have Miss Sandra Johnson with Global Mobile Finance, and she's going to come and talk to us a little bit about her business. So without further ado, let us welcome Sandra.
Thank you very much, Lori, and good morning, everyone. I am Sandra Johnson, as Lori mentioned, and I want to share with you a few minutes about Jivamet, which is my company's relationship-driven remittance mobile app targeting initially Sub-Saharan Africa. So today, there are over 200 million senders who send funds home regularly to over 800 million family members and friends in emerging countries. The funds are used to help them make ends meet, to pay for goods and services such as medical bills, utility bills, grocery, etc. Globally, this is a $550 billion market in terms of funds moved, which translates into over $38 billion market when you look at the average transfer rate of 7%. So for Sub-Saharan Africa, our initial targeted area of the world, it's a $46 billion market in terms of funds moved. And we initially plan to target the top 5 corridors from the United States to countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, shown here, which is an $8 billion market. In Sub-Saharan Africa, there are a number of issues when it comes to remittance. The fees are the highest in the world. The vast majority of the citizens of the countries are unbanked. They do not have credit cards or bank accounts. However, they do have mobile phones, and more on that later. Many of the recipients live in remote areas, and it's very difficult for them to reach a pickup location. And for those who do, it's very dangerous for them to carry large amounts of money. And then one issue that geeRemit focuses on is building a relationship with the customer. The vast majority of remittance service providers simply focus on transferring funds from sender to receiver, and they don't focus on building a relationship with the customer. However, studies that have shown that those who do can increase their sales by up to 85% and their margins by over 25%. And as you can see here, some of the well-known brands that do focus on building customer relationships using analytics as part of that process. So now geeRemit, it is a remittance service mobile app. What you see here is what a user, which in our case is the sender, sees when it downloads the app. It registers a one-time registration with pertinent information, and then initiates a transfer by inputting the recipient's information, including their mobile telephone number, and then initiating a transfer. The sender then gets an acknowledgement that the funds, the transfer of funds have been initiated, and then a subsequent acknowledgement when the funds have been received. So the funds are deposited into the mobile money accounts of the recipients. And mobile money is a financial account like Venmo or Zelle or Cash App that we're familiar with here in the West. However, the funds, the account itself is managed and created by a mobile telephone service and not a bank. And so this is a very useful, very popular service in many emerging countries, and the funds are used to pay for goods and services, etc. The competitive landscape for remittance, here's a snapshot of some of geeRemit's competitors. Western Union and MoneyGram, we're all familiar with. They are the global market leaders. However, combined, they only have a 25% market share. So there's lots of opportunities for others to come in and be successful in this market. We have conducted customer discovery. We reached out to a number of our potential customers. The customer segment that we're focusing on are those who are first or second generation immigrants, expats, diplomats, international students, etc. So we conducted a survey reaching out. Here's the distribution of the countries that these potential customers are from. And one of the ways that we plan to build a relationship with the customer is by working with the customer so that a percentage of the fee that they pay for transferring the funds is then donated to a charitable organization that focuses on transforming lives. And so we talk to them about whether or not this is something they would be interested in doing. Would they be willing to pay a premium for this type of service? And what you see at the bottom here are some of the comments that they made when we had the discussions with them, including this is a game changer. I've never thought about this before, but I'm really excited about it. It's a differentiator. It resonates with my values, et cetera, because most of the customers that actually send money regularly home to family and friends, they have the mindset for helping people. So the opportunity to help others in addition to their family and friends really resonates with them. More customer discovery results. We asked them, is geeRemit, with this feature and other similar features, an application that they would use? And you can see 100% of those who actually use remittance services said yes. But there were 3 of the folks that we talked to that don't use remittance services. 92% would be willing to pay up to a 2% premium for this service. Premium meaning 2% more than the average transfer fee for transferring to the specific country that they're interested in. And of course, all of them are interested in the social benefit associated with this particular service. So we have innovated or invented an analytics protocol that we call lightweight remittance analytics. It enables us to conduct analytics on our customer to gain insights to then make suggestions that can increase the remittances for that customer in the future. For example, one of the initial suggestions that we may make is to the sender that they create a separate bank account with our assistance so that in the future, a percentage of the fee goes into that bank account. And so the more that they send funds to family and friends, this bank account increases over time. And it is a way for them to save for their family members special moments in their lives, like paying for their graduation, for their education, or helping them start a business, etc. Again, as part of the customer discovery process, many of the potential customers really liked that. They said, yes, I can do this on my own, but I'm really, really busy. It's something I've thought of doing. So the fact that this can happen automatically is a feature that's attractive to me. We have 9 provisional patent applications we filed on this analytics methodology, and we have more pending. A little bit about me and my background. I am an electrical engineer by training. I spent 26 years working for IBM. My last 3 years with IBM, I lived in the Middle East and Africa, 2 years in Dubai, 1 year in Nairobi, Kenya. And in that time period, I traveled throughout the Middle East and Africa to 22 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, many of them several times. I actually used mobile money when I lived in Nairobi. And so this is actually where I got the idea of remittance, because when I would come home and I experienced some of the issues with sending money to that part of the world, and I used mobile money in Kenya. So I am very well versed and understand the advantages of this technology. And here is the list of my team members, mentors, a compliance consultant, which is very, very important when it comes to a money transfer business, and of course, a member of the board of directors. So the application geeRemit has been developed, the minimum viable product, and we are planning to have a pilot starting next quarter, where we will connect with up to 300 early adopters. We will work with them who will use this app for a couple of months, provide us with input feedback on how we can improve upon the app. And then after a couple of months, we plan to launch the general availability of geeRemit in the market. And then later this year, at a second country. So the initial country is Kenya. That's the country I'm most familiar with. So the pilot will be senders who live in Georgia, because Georgia is the only state where we have a license for doing this at this time, who will send to Kenya regularly. And then with the general availability will be for senders throughout Georgia, sending to Kenya. And moving forward in time, we will increase the number of countries as well as the number of states in which we have a license. Our second targeted country for this is Ghana. And so that's sort of the overview of geeRemit. In terms of my ask, if you know of residents of Georgia, particularly in the Atlanta area, who may be interested in participating in the pilot, please send them my way. My website, the link to the website is shown in this chart. Have them go to the website and register, and then we will reach out to them. And finally, we also have a equity crowdfunding campaign that's ongoing now for those who are interested in the crowdfunding campaign and investing. Please go to this website as well, and we'll share with you information. And the deadline for those who are interested is shown here, March 31st, which is next month, the end of next month. And that is more or less my presentation, and I am happy to share and answer any questions that you may have about this matter.
Hi, Sandra. I'll take the first one. We all have, if anybody's been on any kind of social media or anything of that nature in the last 10 years, knows that there is potential for people in other countries to create scams to have money sent to them. So how does your business kind of avoid being the vehicle for those scams or any money laundering or whatever? What protections do you have for your business so that you're not involved in that?
Okay, so in order to obtain a license to transfer funds, there's a rigorous process a company has to go through to prove to the regulators, in our case, initially the state of Georgia, that we have protections in place, and this is required for all states. So some of the requirements are, there is a list, if you will, international list of individuals that we are not to do business with. So we check, anyone who registers, we ask for their driver's license. Okay, there's some level of identity verification. And then we check them against this list of names. There are several lists. One is an anti-terrorism list, and another is a list of individuals, as you mentioned. So we check to make sure that they're not on this list as part of our initial checks when an individual registers. And there are many other regulations for anti-money laundering, et cetera, that serves to protect not only the user, but also our company from this type of service. And as I mentioned earlier, the compliance consultant is very important. So our consultant, our compliance expert is an expert in this type of tracking. She has over 15 years of experience in doing this. So, we work very closely with her to ensure that we do not have individuals like this using this service.
So, Sandra, is there a minimum and a maximum that a person can send?
Yes, there is, and that is regulated by federal government, actually. And so actually there are levels. For example, if you transfer less than $2,000, then there's less regulation on the individuals transferring versus more than $2,000. So we plan to have a maximum transfer of $2,000. And within a certain period of time, 30 days, it cannot, and that's $2,000 per transaction. And in a 30-day period, it cannot be over $10,000. And again, this is part of regulation to minimize or eliminate money laundering, for example.
And so if I wanted to send somebody $25, is the fee the same? Is it the same fee for $25 versus $2,000?
Our fee is going to be, we're going to target 5%. So that percentage is not going to change, but the actual amount obviously is going to depend upon the transfer amount. But the transfer fee is going to be 5%.
5%.
Yes.
Can we go back to the where you were talking about you were encouraging them to create accounts with you, or no, not with you, but with your guidance of creating these accounts? Are there restrictions on those accounts once they're created, or once you do referrals, you're out of it?
We plan to, because we're not a bank, we plan to partner with a bank that will work to create the financial accounts with that bank. So this is going to be an account that the customer controls. They can more or less do what they want to do as they would do with any bank account that they have. We are just a facilitator for creating the account and then depositing a percentage of the fee into that account with every subsequent transaction.
So basically, once you do the referral, your part of that is out.
My part of it is out, right, in terms of managing the account. Anything after that is just a deposit. Now, if at some point in the future, let's say after 6 months or a year, they want to use funds from that account to transfer to the recipient, then we will come in to say, okay, instead of transferring funds from the account that we normally transfer the funds from, we will use this account. But that is up to the sender, not up to us.
And so we have a question from Ron. He wants to know why someone would utilize your company instead of just going directly to the bank. So what value per se do you bring to the table?
Banks, the vast majority of the people in this part of the world do not have bank accounts. So going to the bank is something that is just not the normal practice for not only countries in sub-Saharan Africa, but practically most emerging countries in the world, right? So from that perspective, It's a different type of infrastructure than what we're familiar with here in the West. Banks are just used for high-end businesses and high-end wealthy individuals in most emerging countries.
And so how does geeRemit, how is it different from like Western Union and PayPal?
Western Union, I'll talk about them first, because although they do offer this service where funds are deposited into the mobile money accounts of the senders, the fees are very high, right? Extremely high, over 10%, right? And so we will, our fees will be much lower than that. And in addition to that, and this is for Western Union and PayPal, for example, or any of the other remittance service providers, they just focus on transferring money from sender to receiver. There are many players coming into this space, many fintech companies that is driving down the cost of the transfer fee, which is good for the consumer. From a business perspective, when you see this happening and the service essentially becomes a commodity, then the way that you increase your revenue is by providing value on top of the transfer service. And that value then is attractive to the customer. So the difference geeRemit provides, the value add, if you will, versus other remittance service providers, is that we are working to build this relationship with the customer. Initially by enabling them to donate to nonprofit organizations that teach you how to fish as opposed to give you food, so that are transforming lives, and also enabling them to set up their own separate financial account. To our knowledge, there are no other remittance service providers, including Western Union and PayPal, that provide this service. And this is something that is very attractive to the market segment that we are targeting.
And so Ron also would like to know, so how does the person, the recipient, actually receive their money if they're not going to the bank?
It comes straight to their mobile phone. They just get a text message saying you have just received funds from so-and-so, right? And there's an app on their phone that will enable them to go and check to see how much money they sent, etc. So it's very convenient.
And so they can go into a store and spend the funds from the app?
Yes. All they have to do is type in the mobile phone number of the recipient, and the funds are transferred.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I want to follow up on that because this is a new idea for me that I'm trying to absorb. So I get the fact that the money gets transferred on their mobile phone, and they go shop somewhere and they just have to have the mobile phone number of the one they're shopping at, correct?
Right.
Okay, so now that transaction, I get that when you transfer the money, you get a share of that cost of transferring. But when that person walks into the store and makes that mobile transfer of the funds, is it the mobile app then that is adding a fee on top of that? It does the business add a fee on top of that? Just curious of how the system is working.
Okay, so I'll give you an example using Mpesa, which is the most popular and successful mobile money service that's based in Nairobi, Kenya, and is a service provided by Safaricom, which is the largest mobile phone service. It's Safaricom, that company, that provides this Mpesa service. So anytime Safaricom's customer transfer funds, from sender to receiver, Safaricom gets a percentage of that transfer, right? That is something that is a service of Safaricom. My company, geeRemit, simply deposits funds into the mobile money account of the recipient, okay? So essentially, Global Mobile Finance is bringing Safaricom additional services, additional customers, because funds are deposited into mobile money accounts, right? Now, Safaricom will not, will get a small fee from that deposit, and that is included in the 5% fee that I mentioned earlier.
So when you figure out your fee structure, the 5%, you have to factor in that you have to also give them a percentage of that.
Yeah, and it's a very, very small percentage. We're talking pennies here.
Do the businesses that accept this have, kind of like credit cards, when you walk into a Belk's or a Walmart or whatever, we know that they have to pay a fee to accept credit cards. Are the businesses that accept this mobile app charged a fee as well?
It depends upon the mobile money service. Some mobile money, you know, the company, in this case, of the example I gave you, Safaricom, there are many mobile money service providers throughout the world. Some may charge a fee for that, some may not.
Okay, so your expenses, I'm trying to think of how you're coming to your 5%. So the only ongoing expense you have or requirement is that you pay this, I forgot what you call them, Safaricom?
Yes, Safaricom, which is the name of the mobile phone service company.
So is that the only person that you have to pay a fee to run your business like this?
No, because we do not have a global payments network. We partner with a B2B company, Tunes, which has the global payments network. So we are not paying Safaricom. We're paying Tunes, okay, who has the business arrangement with Safaricom.
Which also reduces your profits because you have a fee that you have to pay.
Right. But all of this is calculated when we targeted the 5% fee.
Are they likely to go up and down on their fee structure often, or is it a pretty stable fee that they charge you?
It's a pretty stable fee. Now, there's a caveat to that. When you just get started and you don't have volume, then the fee is higher. But over time, as your volume increases, then their fees decrease.
So how do people know you're available?
I'm sorry?
How do potential customers know you're out there?
Well, we do plan to market this, you know, as part of the pilot. We plan to market to find early adopters. But then once the app becomes generally available, we plan to market it using a number of vehicles. Number one, we plan to use social media to have targeted advertising. We've done some due diligence and we know where our initial customers are located, where they live, et cetera. So social media marketing. We plan to reach out to community leaders initially, for example, for the pilot. Community leaders, for example, in the Atlanta area, the Kenyan community. I actually, because I worked in Nairobi, many of my former IBM colleagues there, some of them have moved to the United States, actually to Georgia. So connecting with them, and that's how we reach the community leaders in Georgia, working with them, who will then spread the word about this particular app. We plan to also work with international student organizations on college campuses, and also with embassies and consulates.
So you're really targeting the people who are going to be the receivers of this more than the people who potentially could send it, because they're the ones who are going to tell their family or their friends to use your app.
Actually, we're targeting the senders. So the communities I just mentioned are the communities here in the United States, right, who send to family members and friends. Initially, we're targeting the senders, not the receivers.
So why not go after the receivers? Because if it's kind of like we were talking last week with the pharmacy person, if the doctor says, where do you want me to send my prescription? I'm going to tell you as the person who's going to receive it where I want it to go. If I'm in Kenya and I'm having to use this and I got friends or family in the United States or in another country, then I would say use your service, correct?
The senders, the ones sending the money, will send to the recipient's mobile telephone number, right? And so from that perspective, it's very convenient from the recipient's perspective because, the money just comes to them. And so it's very convenient for them because it comes straight to them. And the reason why we're initially targeting the sender is because the sender is the one that pays the fee, right? So we're targeting the source of the revenue initially.
So really, unlike the pharmacy, I have no vested interest as the receiver which company you use to send it.
Right.
Because I'm going to get it regardless, and I'm not going to have to pay a fee. It's the user, the one who's sending, that would have to make that decision.
Yes. Yes.
Is our 1 Million Cups audience awake today?
So the 5%, so that won't change based on the dollar amount. So if you send a lesser amount, would it be less than 5%, or it is going to be 5% across the board?
It's going to be 5% across the board.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to, again, to do with the fees that we are charged by our partner.
Any other questions? If we don't have any other questions, I guess I'll take the last question, Sandra.
Okay.
How can this community help you? What can we do to help your business?
At this point, if you know folks in Georgia who may be interested in using this service, get the word out. Let them know that this service is coming. They can go to the website you see here, globalmobilefinance.com, and learn about the particular service. If you're interested in investing, I know this is not an investment pitch and that's not my intention, but if you're interested, this equity crowdfunding campaign is specifically for North Carolina residents. You see the bold black at the bottom of the screen. It's for North Carolina residents. So if you're interested, you're a North Carolina resident and you want to invest, you can also reach out to us at this website.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for coming and talking with us today. It was a pleasure having you.